Hello everyone. So in this video we're going to work on a transaction application. So in this project we'll be working on this transaction application that is built with Tkinter as a graphical user interface and Sqlite3 as a database which kind of stores the information such as account, money and passwords and so on. So this application involves no real money. We are just going to randomly generate some money with programmatically, and then we are just going to store it in our local database with no cloud access. And this project kind of resembles the features of Google Pay. For example, you can send money to friends, have a profile, and much more. So before we dive into the project any further, I'd like to show you what exactly we're trying to build here. So this is the application. So we have a login page, and it will just let me if I have the correct password. So I can also create an account. So it just has some, let me open it here. So it just have some basic information, and we need to provide a date, and we need to provide a password in which the user is going to log in. And first of all, the user needs to have a bank account, which we will already pre-made it in the database. So without any bank account, because you need to have account number and so on. So we'll just be having it in a database so that the user can register only afterwards, and they can have a profile picture and so on. So I'm just going to sign in. So with my correct password this time, so it just notifies me, and this is the home page. So we can perform a lot of operations. So first let me just show you the profile. So this is the profile details I will enter while I just registered, for example date of birth and so on. And edit profile, I can edit some of these. For example, if I want to change the email associated with that account, mobile number, changing the profile picture and changing the password will affect the data. So and then we can just in this home page we have some transactions like account balance. So I just need to provide my UPI key. So we need to provide it the correct one, and it just shows 2000 as my balance. And this is the recent transactions that I made with any account. For example, I just made these transactions before. I would have sent money, or I would have received this digital money and so on. And the usage graph says how much my balance varies with each transaction. I can clear it if I want. And yep, so I can transfer money in two kind of ways, but first by default we need to have an account number and the amount we are just going to provide. So every account has an account number. Mine does too, but I don't remember it. So but yes, so this, whenever I pay an account to this account number, it will be automatically added in this friends tab. So I did provide these two pay these two the account number, so they are added here. Now I can just directly provide without having an account number. So so this will just give me the options, so I can pay it from here. Here I can just enter the account. So 500 is what I'm going to give, and the UPI key. So the transaction is successful. I can just check my balance or check my recent transactions. So I can see that I paid to Java in rupees 500 in this time. So let me just log in and log out with that account in which I sent it. So password is here. So now if I see, you can see that I received this money, and I can check my account balance also. Yep, I do have a lot of account. At last we can just search the friends. So we can type by their name or phone number. So let me just provide it by name. So I can just pay from here as well. So that's what we are going to build in this project. So let me provide you what others we are just going to provide. So about the project, we're just going to use the basic CRUD operations like reading, deleting, updating from the database. So we're just going to use SQLite, and We are just going to have the user friends for, yeah, the all the information about the users friends profile information will be contained in this database, which is going to retrieve them or update them and so on. So we, as we saw, we have a Tkinter GUI in which the user can register or log in to their page beautifully, and they can just make their transactions between the users and so on. So these are the features that I walked to, and one feature that I forgot is we do have OTP option as well. So whenever I do forget the password, I just need to send the email address of the account, and it will in real time it will send the OTP, and we can just log in as well. But I'm not going to show, I'm not going to open the OTP now, but it works. So searching friends and you pay for validation, yeah, everything I showed you. So I'm just going to provide you how exactly are we are going to provide this, finish the project. So first I'll be covering the basics of Tkinter and Sqlite. Here we will provide some of the widgets and Sqlite, the CRUD function, CRUD operations that are needed for the project. And as the project progresses, I'll just show you the remaining bits where some of the other type of widgets will be useful. So next we'll just continue developing the front end window. So we do without any functionalities. So we'll just provide all the, yeah, some of the front end features, but they won't do anything, but we'll be filling it later on. And after that we'll be implementing basic functionalities. For example, we'll manage authentication, profiles, and few other things. And then we'll be moving on to advanced functionalities. So meaning we'll just manage the friends accounts, and the money we are just going to transfer, implement the search features, and yeah, those kind of advanced functionalities. So before we just run the program, we're just going to need Python, and Tkinter will be most likely be coming with Python. I'll be using Python 3.8.0 or similar version, and we're going to be needing Pillow. SQLite will be in Python by default, and TK calendar is for the widget I showed you when the user registers, a date tab opens. So, and map.lib is for the graph page. You don't need to install some of these features if you don't want those features. But if you do want to install, we're just going to hit the command such as pip install mat.lib and space, another one is pillow for managing images, and another one is tk calendar. So we'll be needing these libraries. So mine, I already have it installed, so that's it. So as you can see, the layout for the application is, we do have a logo and some header description here and a frame menu. So these two are going to be static because I mean every page has this logo and menu except for the login page, and the frame body is what is going to change. I'm not going to create a new window which re-renders the whole application one by one. I'm just going to erase this frame body. Whenever I choose this menu, I will erase this contents of the frame body, and I will just render the new contents of this menu. And if I go to another frame, I'll just delete the old contents of the old frame and will just render the new contents. And this is how we are going to proceed. So up next, I'll just be covering the basics of Tkinter and SQLite. Okay, so in this video we'll be starting with the basics of Tkinter. So Tkinter is a front end GUI application. So it stands for graphical user interface. So all it does, so in our application we have a window, and inside the window there are several widgets. Labels just are just used for displaying the information such as welcome to Tkinter project and so on. And buttons are used to handle any events. So when we click a button, a certain function get executed. So these labels, buttons, and frames are all widgets of Tkinter. So they are all inside a Tkinter window. So I'll just first import from Tkinter. I'm going to import ttk command tk. So and now I'll be instantiating from this tk class. So this is a class. I'm just creating an instance of it. So this instance is a window, and in order for the window to run until I close the button, so I'm just going to be using root.main loop. So I've created a button, and inside I have created a window, and inside this window I can have labels and buttons packed by geometry managers. So geometry managers uh, helps us to place the widgets inside them at whatever place we decide. So I can have a button at the leftmost corner or at the rightmost corner. So there are three types of geometry managers: pack, place, and grid. So in our project we'll be using mostly pack and grid. So before we go on to those details, I'll just run this program. So as I said, this is just a window, and this window is going to run until I close the button. So this main loop listens for any events. So if there's any button, I can click the button and it will wait for the event to happen. So those kind of actions. So I'm just going to run this demo.py file, and this is the window I was talking about. This window has really nothing inside. I don't have any labels or buttons created, but it is existing to for waiting me for to create any events, such as if there's any button, it will wait for me to for my actions. So until I close this button, this program is going to run. So as you can see, this program is running, but if I close this window, it returns the prompt anytime now. Yep. So now we have a simple window. Inside the window, I'm just going to be creating labels. So these are text that I'm be showing. So for that, we are just going to use this ttk dot label. So capital L there. And first, we need to give inside which window or frame this label is going to be reside on. So I'm going to give root. So this is the main window, and inside this window the label is going to appear. So that's what I'm saying. And text equals, so I'm just going to give some, this is a test label. Okay, so now, right now I have created a label, but I did not tell Tkinter which or where or how to place the label. So I have a label, but in order to place it inside the window, I need to use one of the three geometry managers that I talked about. They are pack, grid, grid, and place. So for now, I'll just use pack button. So what it does is, so the label is created. Pack method tells to defaultly stack the label onto the window, on top of the window. So if I run this, you can see, I'll just zoom in. So this is a label, and the reason for the default window to be this smaller is this, it takes the entire width of the label, so width and height of the label. So since we have just only one label, it just takes this. So but if I can maximize it. This is the label. So if I create a new label, ttk.label, and say root comma text equals this second label, and I'm going to pack it as well. Oh, where did the bracket go? Okay, so if I run it now, you can see there are two labels, and they are just vertically stacked up to one another. That's what the pack does by default, right? Okay, so now let's create buttons now. So buttons is exactly almost like label. So I'm just going to be providing which window the button should appear, and the text on the button, I'll say click me, and the third parameter it takes is command. So what should the button execute, what function the button should execute when the button is clicked. So I'll just say a test function Yeah, this is the callback function, so I'll just make it more meaningful. Button clicked. So I should create this function. I'll just pack it and create. So def button clicked and print the button is clicked. Okay, so this is exactly like label, but the extra parameter is command. So whenever the button is clicked, we are just going to see this the message on the console. So if I run this, button click is not okay. So I'll just like paste top of it. Okay, so this is the button and the text is inside the button. So if I click on this, right now you can see the button is clicked appears on the message. So as long as I click, so and this appears here. So this is the main loop event that is waiting for me to that is listening on to the events that I am doing. So I'm just clicking it and the main loop captures it while I close the button. So close the program. So whenever this button is clicked, it will just call this function. As I click the button, this function will be called as much as time that I tell it to be. Okay, so before we move on to next, we'll be covering frames. But before I go on to frames, I'll just show you a small note to be taken care of. So right now, if I don't give this back, this is an object. So if I want to save, I can save this object, like for example, my label equals, and I can then use the pack method. I can then use the pack method on this label. So my label is equals ttk dot, my label dot pack. This is exactly equivalent to this, right? But this is kind of will not provide exact output. So it's because this is a label. It will return this label and to be stored in this variable, my label. Yep, it will return this variable. But if I use the geometry manager on this, it will no longer return this object, right? So if I just comment it out and run the program, you can see no difference. So this is a test label and exactly as it appears. But if I do pack on this method will not be the variable will not get nothing, for it will get none, and the none is stored here, and it will prompt something like none has no attribute pack. It's because I use the pack method on it. The widget, you can see no changes in the window. It will just work fine. Okay, so if it runs, okay, so this is the error, because if you print my label, it will be a none value. See, but the label is placed because I used the pack method on it, but it returns none, and since it is none, it cannot use the pack method. So it is to be careful. So this is the exact right syntax, and this is also right one. So when we'll be using this, when will I need to store this variable is, for example, for buttons, after the button is clicked, later on in the program I might need to disable the button from further use, right? Another example is entry widget. So entry widget is just a text widget. So I'm just saying my name equals ttk.entry. It takes only the root argument, and it says, let me just say pack. Sorry, I don't need to pack on it. Name.pack. So this is the text widget. I'll just show you now. Yeah, here I can enter my name, and just probably do anything with that. And let me create a button though. Ctk.button capital B root comma text equals click, click dot command test button is clicked. So what I'm doing is I have, yeah, you can just forget this label for now. I have an entry widget and I'll just type something there, and afterwards, after I type, I'll just click the button. So when the button is clicked, I'm going to print the value of the entry that I typed. So dot get. So if I run this program, so I'm just going to be typing it. So if, yeah, you can see it. So whenever I type something, for example testing, and click on it, I'm just getting the display, I'm just getting the text after the button is clicked. It was possible because I saved this entry widget and then packed on it, and then I'll be able to use this entry widget and get the value of whatever I typed inside it. So I'm getting the value only after the button is clicked, right? So if I just don't have any function and give it directly, it will just print me an empty value, because by the time I enter it, the program would have run, and I won't be able to type the message. So this is exactly what I did here. So for labels, I won't be using this. I won't be saving the widget to the variable and use the pack method on it. For labels, I'll just use something like directly label root comma text equal to something, and I'll just pack it right there. I won't be needing to save it in IO for later use. But for entry and for few other buttons, I'll just do like this way instead of this way. Okay, so now let me have a simple label. Let me get rid of all of this and show you other pack geometry manager. This is a label. So right now I have pack geometry manager. Now I'm going to show you grid. So pack is also kind of powerful, but it has quite restricted use. So by default it stacks to the vertically like this, but with grid I can create more complicated structures, right? So I'll just show you two labels. This is second label, and I'm going to use grid geometry manager. So let me just give row equals 0 and column equals 0. So I'm going to tell the Tkinter where I should place the widget. So I can imagine as a table. So I have a widget and I'm going to place it in row 0, column 0, and this widget in row 1 and column 1. So this means there are four types of places where I can actually place it, either row 0, column 0, or row 0, column 1, and row 1, column 0, row 1, column 1. So since I have like this, we can create more complicated structures with these. See, so this is the label and this is second label. This is the gap here, so I can just make any other label or widget I want. If, for example, this is my third label inside row 0 and column 1, and here I can have row 1 and column 0. So I'll just replicate these, and this is second, third, and fourth, and 1, 0. So if I run, all the 4 values will be filled because I used all of them. So we'll be using these kind of grid and pack in our projects. And next, I'll be quickly showing you frames. So right now we have all the widgets inside the root window. But for easy structuring of the organization, organizing the widgets, I just divided the window into three frames, and this frame contains the info, like general description of the project, and this is the menus, the home button, the info button, play button, and so on. And here I'll be just having the play. So this helps me to organize, and it won't disturb the other frames. So if I have multiple widgets in the same window, like managing one widget will probably um, probably will affect the other widgets. So I'll just divide this into frames. So for not to create the frames, I'm just going to use, so first I'll just save it in variable, for example frame header and ttk.frame. So this frame is going to be inside the root window. So there is, everything should be inside the root window, but the priority is just going to change. So in order to show you what I mean, the label is still inside the main window, but it's not directly in the main window. Its parent is frame header. So I'm just going to make this label inside the frame header, but this label is in turn inside root window. So you can see the hierarchy. First, root is the window, and inside there is a frame header, and inside the frame there is a label. So I can create another frame, second frame, and name it ttk.frame root frame second dot pack, and I'll just copy this frame second. This is probably second label. Okay, so the hierarchy is like this. There is root. Let me just use that report scene here. So there is root, and inside there are two frames, frame header and frame second. And inside the frame header there is a label widget, so label 1, and I did not name these labels, but just letting you know. So this is the hierarchy. So root has two children, probably you can say that, and frame header and frame second is one of them. Frame header has one child and frame second has one child. So this is how it makes the organization neat. So if I run this, you won't see any kind of difference because I did not have any border for the frames and so on, but we'll be having those kind of borders. For example, I can configure it, frame header dot config relief equals to rich padding. I forgot the syntax for it. Yep. So I'm just need to import this rich. So it does nothing, but it just makes it stand out for differentiation purpose. So as you can see, this is a frame, and I have this kind of border. There are many kinds of border. I've used rich here. There is probably groove or sunken and so on. So I'll need to import some of these. I'll just show you groove. So this is kind of inwards, but groove is kind of outwards. Yep. So this covers the basics of Tkinter. So up next we'll be showing you the basics of Sqlite and how to work with the database for basic product. So in this video we're going to cover the basics of Sqlite. So we need a permanent storage medium to store the data like questions and so on. We cannot, we can actually store it in Python script, but we have to rerun the, for example, I have at the start of a Python script a dictionary that contains a question and answers, but at some time we'll be needing to store them permanently because I might need to add questions graphically. So I cannot just add graphically every time the same question. So in order to do that, we can just use the Sqlite or any permanent storage medium to store the questions permanently and then use them for later purpose. So there are actually many kinds of storage medium. For example, you can use common files, a text file. You can use the you can use it to store the questions and high score and so on. But for it is not efficient to use files, and as the data we are managing gets bigger, files are not efficient. So we are moving to databases. It has been around for several decades, and it is one of the most very efficient use of data that can be used for any type of applications. So for creating a database, I'm just going to create a new one, and I'll just use the plus button. So I'm just I'm just going to be naming it brand and click on OK. So this database is here. So first I need to connect to the database. So I'm connected. So right now I have no tables. So database contains many tables, and tables contains many rows and columns of data. So columns are the special properties, for example attributes, while rows are some entries. So if I have a user, I store him in a separate variable. For example, first we store it in a database. The table contains two columns. For example, in the first column I'll just use the first name, and the second column I'll just use the second name of the user. So in one row I store the first name and the second name. So that's how it goes. And if I want to create a new user, I'll just go to second row, and it has the same column, first name and second name, but this user is probably going to have a different name. So I'll just doing that. So first I'll be creating a table. So graphically, I mean, there's ways to create tables in program, but now we are just going to show you how to create them graphically. So first I'm going to insert the table name. So this so I'm going to enter them graphically, but this is going to be converted into code later on in time. So that is the DDL. So create table. So I've created the create table button, so it created an empty table for me. Right now I did not name it, so it's empty. So I'm just going to name the table here. So I'll just say users, and then I'm going to add columns to this database. So first I'm going to insert the ID. So this is going to be primary key, and it's unique and not null. So what do I mean by this? So every row in the database has to be unique. There should be no duplicate values. So every row should be unique in some way. But there might be instance, you can say that name can be unique, but there might be instance where two users can have same name and both of their data can be like mismatched. So in order to avoid that, we are going to have a column called ID. No matter what the user data is, first name, last name, address, anything might be same, but the ID is going to be unique for every user. So querying by ID always we don't have any mismatches while querying the ID. So this is an important type of column. And primary key is just a way to, it says it can identify a table uniquely, and it is not going to be null. So if there is any null value, so if I didn't give any ID, it will just show me an error, so I can correct it. So I have a column. I'm going to give another column and say username, and this time I don't need it to be primary key. I might need it to be unique, because for example, if you are managing a bank account, that no two users can have two usernames. So whenever the username is same, I'll just make them enter a different kind of a string. So username 1, username 2, and so on. Whenever there's an update, this value will be updated, and no duplicate value will be there. So I have two columns for this table, but I don't have any row for now because I'm just creating a table. I'm not filling any tables. So right now this is created, but it's not committed to the database, meaning I did not save this table to the database. So this is the code that has been generated like I use the columns, but this is actually code that we will use if you are creating it by hand. So I'm just going to save this table. So it's telling me that these are the queries that are going to be executed. So I want to, yeah, do you want to save it? I'm just clicking OK. So right after that, you can see a table is created called users, and it has columns ID and username. So, but I did not enter any row for any row, but it does have columns ID and username. So I'm just going to create a row graphically. So first it's going to be 1, and the username is going to be, for example, first user, and I'm going to save it, and this is saved, right? So now I'm going to be showing you how to query from the database. For example, reading from the database, creating a new row. So right now I've created it graphically, but in the Python script we'll need to use it in the program. So for that I'm going to open the SQL editor. So I'm going to execute commands in this. So in order to select the values from our table, so there is a database attached to this table. So I'm going to get the value from this table. So select. So it is good convention to follow the practice that database commands are going to be in capital, but even this works as well. I mean, lowercase select from, yeah, but it's good to get the convention because it helps us differentiate which is the data and which is the SQL command. So in order to get the value, so I'm just going to get these two values from the database, which is this, right? So for that I'm going to use select star from users, the name of the table. So first select says it is going to read some data from the table, and star means we are selecting every column from the table and from users. So I have a table called users, and from it I'm going to select every column. So if I run it, okay, yeah, we need some syntax. So the syntax is we need to give it a semicolon for it to end. Okay, so when I ran this, you can see it return me two columns, ID and username of the table. So meaning I am selecting everything from the users. So every row, so in order to select a particular column, I'm just going to say, for example, username. So it has two columns. I'm just going to select username from it. So ID is not displayed, only username is returned. I can give ID, and so it returned only the ID. So this is how we execute into it, I mean read from the database. And now let me just add something to the database. So in order to add something, so I'm just going to create a new row, right? So back then, let me open this, and I created a row graphically, but now I'm going to create a row from program wise. So let me just go. So in order to create it, I'm just going to say insert into, this is the database command, and the name of the table. So I gave the name of the table as users, and what so there are two columns, right? ID comma, yeah, actually ID comma username, user underscore name. So first I'm saying in which values and which columns I'm going to enter data, and now I'm going to actually enter the values of the data. So I should give 2 here because I created a row with ID equal to 1, and IDs are meant to be unique. So if I give 1, it won't run. So I'll just show you 1, and I'm going to insert the name of the second user as string. I should give it in a string because it's a text input. So in double quotes I'm giving it, and followed by semicolon. I mean SQL syntax can extend to multiple lines. But in order to differentiate which one is the syntax, I mean which one is the command, we are just ending it with a semicolon, so it does not clash with the others command that I will give it them. So if I run it, it says unique constraint failed because I have let me just make it in a single column. so single row. So I already have uh, id as 1, so it shows me there cannot be two IDs with the same number. So I'm just going to create a new row with new ID and it will be executed. So I'll just read from the database right soon after it is done. So let's start from users. So this record will be inserted. I'm going to select everything from the users. Okay, so number of rows affected is 1. So now if I run this command, you can see two values of it. So I cannot run the same command again because it has a same number. It'll just show me that 2 is, it'll just show me another error because I do already have that. So I'm going to create a third user and with id equal to 3. Syntax error. Okay, so yeah, I might need to add them separately. So now if I use the select command, select star from users, we'll have the third row. Okay, so this is the reading operation from the database, and yeah, and after that we will just add some updating operations right we are going into the tutorial. But for now this basics is enough to get us started. Part, we're just going to work on the front end features of the application. So the Tkinter basics I would have covered labels, frames and so on. So we're just going to implement this, but this time we're just going to use the power of class. So we're just going to leverage the advantages of class, and that's what we're going to do. So let's start with importing ttk and tk. So as you would have noticed, we would have created a tk instance, and this is the main loop that will keep it running. So instead of having the labels here, what we're just going to do is create a class here, and we're just, so let me create it called front and init self. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm going to provide this root window to this class. So I'm just going to instantiate an instance of this class, and I'll be passing the root as an argument. So that goes like this. So I don't need the instance to work on, but this exactly what I need. So I'm just going to use this root window and pass it to the class, and I can just use these labels like here. So for example, I can use ttk.label, and master is I'm going to need. So here it is named as root, but since I named it as, gave it as root, and it is receiving as master. So but it is the same window, but we are just kind of aliasing it. And next is we are just going to give a text as label, and we're just going to pack it. So now if I run this demo application, python demo.py, we can see the label. So instead of using the labels here directly, we're just going to use this in the class, and we'll be using it from there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to initialize this master window to the self.master. So meaning even if I have a different function here, test, and it takes self, I can use the label and say self.master text is equal to something and use the pack method on it. This will work, but if I use this master directly, it won't work because it is contained within this scope of this function, and not outside this function. But since I pass self here, meaning it's a class instance, and we're just going to get this as self. So self.master works, but master won't work. So if I run it now, you can see wait a minute. Oh, we don't have a text here, but that's I did not save it. Oh, I did not call this function. My mistake. Yeah, I need to call this function as self.test, and yeah, now it should work. Label. Yeah, but if I did it as, if I gave it as master, it won't work because the master is not defined anywhere in this. So that's what we are going to do. We are just going to leverage the users. So first let me just create a login page. So I'm just going to call this as login. So after just initialization, whenever the program is being called, I'll just call this login page. So in this login page, I'll have the, yeah, the login details such as enter the password and where the entry field where we'll have the things, entry fields. So I'm just going to copy this. So I'll explain it over there, and let me just copy only up to this. Okay. Now in this first line of code, what I did is, let me just comment all of these and have just this one. So I just provided the width of the window, that is going to the Tkinter window, and the offset. For example, the window is going to be left at this, window is going to be margin left, margin right from this, and from the top it will be just 100 pixels. And the title of the window is Tkinter. So I can, it does not have any contents, but you can see the window, it has some predefined width, and in turn you can see the title is Tkinter bank, which I just chose. So in this, we're just going to create a photo image, and then we are just going to use the frame header. So I'm just going to create a frame and call it frame header, and it's going to be ttk.frame, and it will be contained inside this master window. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm just going to use the photo image. So I cannot use the image directly here. So logo is just going to be an image, but in order to make it as like Tkinter compatible, we're just going to use a photo image, and we're just going to pass it. I also store it in the self.logo variable, and we are just using it in the image variable, just in label. So instead of text, we are just using label, and this subsample will reduce the size of the image. But so the original file will be some large. So as I reduce this number, for example 5,5, it will just shorten the image. So now if I run it, we probably will not be able to see the logo. Photo image, I need to define photo image. The logo will not be visible, but you can see this label. So the logo is not visible because even though I have increased the size of this window, but the whole application just takes the space of this one label, right? So as we add contents, the logo will be visible here because logo is going to take the space of this much. But since I don't have any contents, the tab is just restricted to this. It's because mainly I've used it to be row span, and the image is not small enough. So but we'll fix it later. So this is the login page, and we need to have few other things such as the login details. So I'm just going to create, I'm just going to copy this, okay, and paste it here. So the frame header contains the logo and welcome text, and now we're just going to fill the page of the login, so which contains the labels and username entries and password entries and so on. So what is this? I'm creating a frame body and I'm just packing it just like the frame header. And oh, I created the frame header twice. I don't need it. Okay, so and yeah, I'm configuring the frames to have this kind of border, and the padding is, it will just provide inside the content is some padding. So let me just run you. Ridge is the kind of border we need to import from Tkinter, so we need to have that as well. So this is the border, relief equal to ridge. We can have few others like groove, where config groove, for it to be, it will just kind of get outwards. Oops. So as you can see, this is quite different from the other frame. So we can, I'm just going to be leave it with relief now, ridge now. So now as you can see, we have username, label and password, and it has row 1, row 0 and column 1, and password is row 1 and column 1, I mean row 1 and column 1. So the labels are going to be having a different rows, and also here the entries are going to take another column. So if I just change it to 0 and 0, we'll probably be able to still see the same output. Yep. So what you're doing is, we have a label in row 0. As you can see, this is a row 0 and column 0, and we have a label, another label in row 1 but in the same column as column 0. But we are just going to have another column, I mean another column for the entry widget, so it's going to be sideways. So this is in column 0 but this is in column 1, so that we would have seen in the tutorial the exact same. So it's kind of a table in which we are just adding this. So what I've done here is, so after placing this, I'm just going to change the configuration of this password entry field. So if I just type here, you can see it's not just allowing me text. It's not showing the text, but if I type here, it is showing the text. It's because I've used the configure method on it. You can see self.psd.config and show equals, so I can use whatever character I want. I mean, if I just need to run it, so if I type something, it will just be in this way. But since password is going to be in this asterisk fashion, I'll just leave it as is. And then we just have two buttons, which is just three buttons, which says it's like login, register, and forgot password and so on. So let me just copy that code and paste it here. But I do need to have the callback functions. But if I run it, it will show me an error because I did not create these functions. Okay, so let me just quickly provide them. So this is going to be a function, a normal function. It's not going to be a class function. It's because I did not provide it to be a self argument. So this is just a temporary action for showing the welcome user after they have successfully logged in. But these two commands are going to be a separate kind of a new page. So I'll be creating a new this folder. So as you can see, this is aligned with this, but this function is contained within this function. So I'm just going to create something. Create the take self and pass, and next is def forgot and self pass. So if I now run it, we can see the three buttons that are differently aligned. It's because I have a different column here. So since the frame menu, which is the frame header had 3 columns, we can just make it a different column here as well. So now we can see a good login page. So next we are just going to create the frame header for other functions. So for that we are just going to be wait, first let me copy the frame contents. So the frame menu will be around so this is the frame menu. Let me just copy it and paste it here. Yeah, this should be fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll just be calling this self dot, let me close this, self dot menu initialization in this create function. Okay, so I do have a function that takes, I mean it's a method. If you are in the class, you should, we're going to say it as method. Let me just expand it. So this contains a frame menu that contains something like buttons that says home, profile, friends, transfer amount, and so on. I do need to provide the callback function for this, but now I'm just going to have some random, I do have a function for this, so I'm just going to paste it everywhere instead of creating. I'll later change it. So what happens is, whenever first you will see the login page. So because we are just calling the login page here, okay, so and then this will be shown. So in this login page we have something like submit and create account and forgot password. So after I click on submit, after I click on create account, it will just land me to the create page, right? But now I don't have any registered page that says enter your name, enter your bank account, and so on. But now I'm just going to call this frame initialization. So I can just even directly have this here, so I not avoid confusion. So after I click on the create button, we'll be able to see these. So let me just quickly run it. Yeah, we can see the basic login page. But if I click on the create account, we can see these menu appearing here. But what I did not do is I should erase this frame contents, because for this the frame body is going to be different, but we do have a different frame body here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete the old contents. So self.framebody contains this, the username labels, right? So if I use this frame body and I'm just going to use forget method on it, and what happens is, so whenever I click on the button, it will just be forgotten, right? So this is how we are just going to have. And now after the frame is forgotten, we can just create kind of like this new frame again inside this create, and then I'm going to have a label that says, for example, self. It is going to be inside this frame body, and text is equal to welcome to the home page of Tkinter project. And for now I'm just going to pack. So you can see when I created it, the whole new menu kind of appears, right? That's what I'm trying to explain. So let me just walk you one more time. So as soon as the init method occurs, so whenever I call this class, for example in this occurrence, right, this init method will be called at least once, I mean only once. So only once. So I'm just going to use this self.login. So I'm just calling this function, which contains a frame header that says this logo and welcome to Tkinter post under project, and then I have a frame body which says the username and password. Okay, so I have few buttons here that says submit, create account, forgot password. Right now I don't have any authentication, but I'm just going to, whenever I click the create button command, I'm just going to like call back this function. Okay, so here I forget the contents of the old frame, but I am keeping the frame header intact. So you can see that it still has the, yeah, it still has the welcome to postal description, because I don't want to forget it, because it is going to remain the same for every window, but the frame contents is going to be different. So the login page will have something like username, password, and some buttons, but the home page will have something like these kind of buttons. Yeah, and the frame body is going to be different. The frame body is going to be something like this. So that's what exactly is happening here. So now I click on create button. This, you can see the Python logo appeared because we do have contents and welcome to Postal Turbine. So I want to retain this, but I want this to be forgotten. So when I click create account, you can see it remains still, but the frame body disappears and new frame appears. But this frame body is going to be same as well, but it's going to be for another type of section. But the frame body is kind of what we need. We forgot the old content that says username and login. Yeah, username and password, and we just re-rendered it. So in this manner, we're just going to fill the buttons. For example, in this, let me just uh, get to the home page. So in this home page, we have something like this. I'll just explain this logic later, but this is what we're just going to have. And if I just copy all this, we can see it has some, I'll just explain it over there. Yeah, this is kind of enough for me. So I'm just going to call this as a callback function for now, because I want the program to run. I'll fill the other graphs later. Forgot. So it might be confusing what I did. All I did is just fill the frame contents with some more meaningful information, like check your account balance button. So now if I run the program, you can see we have this, yeah, the home page like this. Okay, so we can just, I don't have any functionalities now, but these are the kind of buttons. So I'm just be filling this every buttons, and they don't probably do anything by now because I did not add any functionalities. So after that, so I do have it in the create method, which I don't need. I'll just call it home, but create account will be referred to home. So I'm just going to set.home here, or let me have another button. Yeah, we'll be completely changing this, but this is how we are going to design the front end. So up next will be, I'll be showing the rest of the front end framework, and also along with this, yeah, along with the functionalities, we'll be explaining in the next video. So I'll be explaining directly over the main project, because this is kind of like a long project, but which is, everything is kind of repetitive. We do have the same kind of, yeah, the same kind of options. So I do have many type of widgets for every kind of menu, so that's going to be same, but this is the basic working of it. For login page, I will have something, and if I do something like create account, it will have something, some kind of different contents, because we're just okay. So now we are going to implement the login pages and some user registrations and so on. So before we go into those any further, we need to know a bit more about SQLite Python. So for that, let me just open the not this one. Oops. DB file. Okay, so first we're going to be importing the Sqlite3 which is the database, and we will create a class. And we don't need to create class specifically, but it is useful that we create a class because we are going to instantiate objects in this program. So for that, it is going to be using an init method which connects to the database. So Sqlite3.connect. So we do have a database already. Let me just quickly walk you through that. But before that, we are just going to connect to the database. So set.connection is kind of what we are going to interact with the database. So we'll be using that. And then for executing the SQL commands, we'll be needing something called cursor. So we're just like using the method of this, and we will just use the execution methods on this. For example, as you can see, in order to execute any method, this string is exactly what we are going to provide the SQL as a query string. And here we'll just use some from some parameters. So we're going to use it from the function and so on. So this is just the basics. I'll just show you as we go on, but let me just show you what our table contains. SQLite Studio. So it contains tables like, so there are 3 tables: users and bank accounts and the transaction details. So we're going to be using through all of those. So this is my database, and I just connected it, like right click connect to the database. So I opened the database and connected to it, and these are the 3 tables. So first let me just go to the bank, and so here we have 4 types of main information. So in this table we have ID, which is the primary key, and bank, which is the bank account. Like there are many banks: ICICI, Indian Overseas, and so on. And account is just the number, and balance is the like actual balance of the account. So we will pre-fill all of these. So these are the sample accounts. So we must fill these in these databases because this information is required before the user can actually register into the page, because he needs to have a bank account and some like bank, and it has some basic cash. So we'll be creating that. So I can create a new row, and for this row the user can I can create a new row and fill this information. And with this information the user can open the registration system main.py. So while creating it, we will provide him the basic information. So he or she has its account, and that's what they are going to fill. So without any of these we won't. So before we start we should fill these, but the rest of the tables the program will automatically fill it. So for example, the transaction table, which has the from account, to account, and amount details, we will go through all of these, but these are all just generated by the Python program. For example, when I try to send the cash from one account to another, I'm just logging this account and the to account in which the money is going to be sent, the exact amount, the time, and the sender and the receiver. I don't need this probably because I'm going to have the from account to account, but I just have it just to be clear. So that's what it. With this information the user can register. So here they will provide the SBI bank. If the user does not have this account number, it won't be probably good. So he won't be able to make any transactions. So these are all generated by the program, right? Only this we will just manually enter. For example, if I want to have another user, I'll just add them with this bank account and I will link them here. So as you can see, they are all linked by this ID, right? So here I have 10,000 for this account. So I'm just going to have this account. So I have this account here, which is ID 10,000. So in order to like use this information in this account, I'll just use this ID. It's not by amount. I can also have the ID by the account number, but I just chose it to be an ID because it's easy to implement it as a primary key, and I have auto implement features and so on. So, and as like that, I have the users table, so which is just the profile information, for example the email address and so on. So this will be entered by the program as well. So whenever I create an account, I create a new account, this will be logged here. But since I have this open, this won't probably work because I need to refresh, but this will be logged whenever I create a new account. Okay, so in order to for us to use the CRUD operations for reading and so on, we'll just be using this program. So first we connect to the database. So for example, if I need to get the profile information of all the users, because I need to like use it in this, let me sign in this profile option because I need every one of these. So I'll just query from the database. So select start from users where the name equal to, so I'll in my main program I'll provide my name of the user and it will fetch the name and it will query the object. So this will fetch all the users table. Where is it? Yeah, all the user information. So I'm just needing all of this. So that's what exactly is fetched by this, and I'm assigning it to everyone. So fetch one just gets the current first row of the match result. So I'll be using only, yeah, we'll be needing details of only one user, right? So the first record, which is the one user, will be used to fetch one. Either it's even if I use fetch all, it is going to be one result, but what it does is it's just a list of many users, but in this I just have a tuple and I'm just assigning because I need the name, email address, everything, and I will return it back to this account. Okay, so this is how we are going to use that. So in order to use them in the main account, I'll just call the object. So db file is the program where I will call the methods. So if I want details of a particular user, I'll just call this method and pass in the username, right? But I'll be calling it from this file. So in order to import it, we need to import db file, right? And db file has a class called one user. Okay, so for that I'll just be doing db file dot one user, or I can use like db file from, yeah, from db file import one user. Yeah, one user is just a random name. I just want to denote that this class is going to be instantiated only for one user. So at any time only one user's object is stored. Okay, so I'll just leave as it is because my other program depends, but that's a good way to do it. So since I have this object, in order to access any of these methods, I'll just be using, for example, self.object is the object name, right? Self.object dot get details, and I'll be passing the name of the user, for example Tarun, and if this function is executed, it will, yeah, because the get details is the name of the function, that's exactly what I used, and it expects an argument as name. So the argument will be substituted here, and my every details will be saved in these because I'll be further using them in the database as well, but mainly they will be returned. So I'll be having something like user details here and I'll be returning it, so everything will be stored. That's how what I did in the program. Okay, so now we know how to like connect with the database. I'll show you what exact functions work whenever they are needed. So for example, get details is needed whenever the user logs in, right? So that's what we're doing. So let me just try to explain the code. So we're just this for database initialization, and we assign them self.master, and we are calling this login page. And this login page, as we know, we are just trying to forget the old contents of the frame body, frame menu, and frame header because it's going to be changing. So that's why I have this. So for the first time this is not created, but probably at the last they will be created. So back forget or forget, probably that's the same. Okay, so now, so self.menu count is Yeah, I'll go through that later. I won't be needing it as well. So we have a fixed shape here, and we know we have this column. Yeah, the user registration page, a page that says label and entry. So everything will be in this frame body. So label will be in the frame body, username, and the entry widget. As we know, we use the show config on this. So we have this button here that says, let me log out. Okay, so this is the page we are talking about. So this is the frame header, which is this welcome to Tkinter and some logo. So I used the logo here. Of course, I did use photo image on the logo, and yeah, and the text is displayed here. So this is the frame header, exactly this content, right? And now we are just going to use this as frame body. So inside we have labels and 3 buttons. So we already see the labels and the entry working. So now we will just go through these 3 buttons. So whenever I enter a name and submit the, so it will just authenticate. So first, if my password is wrong, it will just say check your username or password and returns me, like it stays in the same page. But if mine is correct, it says welcome user, and if I click OK on it, it'll just yeah, get me this page, right? So that's what we are going to do when we hit the submit button. Okay, so this is the submit button, and I gave a temp action here. It's because I need to display the message, right, that says welcome to the use. Yeah, and also this is where I get the authentication validation. So before we go on to the main page, we need to check and show the message appropriately. So of course, when we hit the submit, we need to go to the home page. But before going to the home page, we need to validate if it's a correct user or not. If it is a correct user, we'll show a success page, like success dialog box. And if it's a wrong user, for example, invalid, yeah, I mean wrong username and password, we'll just show an error page, error dialog box, right? So for that evaluation, we're just having a temporary action between the home page and this. Okay, so temporary action, what it does is I have 2 entry widgets here. In order to get the username and the password, I'll just use self.user.get. So this is the variable here, right? I did not use like dot pack directly here because I need this to be stored in later use. So self.user.get contains the log name and the password what the user has just entered. Now I need to compare with the database, right? Because in the database we have all the login of that user. So what I'm trying to do is first I'll get all the information of the user, right? So we have something like we have the self.object.get details, and I'm passing the self.logname, which is the username of the user. So if I type Arun here, and this is the username and the password is Tesla, so I'll just, whenever I hit submit, I'll just use the get details of Tarun here. Okay, and this will be fetched here, and as I said, all the details will be stored in this locals, and this will be returned. So every detail, the user details and bank details, I'm returning every details, the ID, name, email, because I'll be needing later in the program as well. So I'll be using every one of these, getting everything from the table and from this table as well, and I'm returning it both. And in this page, I'm just assigning all the values that I'm returning. So if I return like 10, probably this will contain something like 12, I think. So I'll be saving all these 12 values in these 12 variables, address and everything. Okay. So now after that, I have the user name as well. So self.logname is what the user entered, and I'm checking if it's the self.vname. So which vname is just the database name that I not differentiated. So it's the value name from the database, and I'm also checking the log password. So user just entered a password, and this is the database password which is the correct password. So if it is the correct user, so it has the same, it matches the name and the password, and then I'm going to use the message box show info. So message box contains various information dialog boxes. So this is the message box. So right now you can see this I, which means it is just showing some information, right? But if I have some wrong, I mean I need to enter something. If I had some wrong, so it just shows me some error. So we're just implementing that. So show info for success message, and in order to make it work we need to import it from Tkinter. Import message box. Okay, so this message box has show info and show error. So when the where am I? It's not this one. Yeah, it's this one. So when the login is successful, which means the password matches, I'm going to show this information, right? So but the self.home screen is after I'm calling it after the message is shown. The user should click enter here. So after they enter the OK button here, so for example there's another one like show yes or no as well, and so on. There are many kinds of message boxes, but we are using these two for now. Okay, yeah, we'll be implementing later of this. So while waiting for this here, it does not go to the home page yet, so I need to click on OK, and then after this message box dialog goes, it will just shift me to the home page. That's what is happening, right? After I click OK, it's opening. But if I fail, it'll just, I mean if the authentication is failed, it just says invalid, the title is invalid, and the message is, yeah, please check your username password, and stays there because I'm not calling any function. So after I click OK here, it'll just stay on this login page for the user to try one more time. Okay, so that's it about submitting. So afterwards we'll go to the home button, which will come back after we have used the create method, which is create account, right? So if I log out and go to click here, so here it's just a common another field which in this I have frame body, which contains some labels here in this column and the user details, and this another widget called TK calendar. So it's for selecting the date in a GUI, in a graphical way, and mobile, and these are all just the entry fields, and this is the drop down field, and this is the file upload dialog box. Okay, so let's see about that now. So this will go to create page. So let me just navigate to create really quick. Okay, so this is the create page, and I won't be needing this. Okay, so here, like I said, in order to forget the login details such as enter your username or password, because this is an entirely different window, not like this, so I have to forget these contents, and then I have to render these, right? So I forget the old frame body contents, and here, so as I said, let me just do. Okay, so as I said, I have this labels. So every label, so this is labeled, actually there are like tens of labels, so I just have them in separate row. So row 1, row 2, row 3, and as you can see it's like a grid. So row 1 is here, I mean row column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 4. So 0, I mean we are going to start the column from 0, right? So 0, 1, 2, and 3. So that's what we are exactly doing here. So labels are all going to be in this 0 and column 3, somewhere around column 3, right? So few labels are going to be in column 3, and the text in 3 will be like those. So for this 0 and 1 matches, so this is in the column 1, this is in the column 0, and it's in the 1, and so on. Here it is in the column 0 and the corresponding entry is in column 3. So we have labels and we have entries. It's just normal entries. We'll just get the values whenever we want. So right now we just have it assigned to like variable. Okay, so for providing the combo box, which is this, this option is quite intuitive as well. So we just have ttk.combo box, and it will be inside the self.frame body, and text is equal to bank. So before I let me so before I enter anything, it will be select your bank. uh, yeah, okay. So the text is bank, but I've set the bank option to select your bank to later on. I did not need that, but yeah, that's what I did. So even if I don't have it, we'll say the first option or something. So the combo box is fairly intuitive. We're just having the width of the combo box to be predefined. So as you can see, it's nothing. It's because yeah, I do need to have this. I don't think the text is needed. I think I was searching for something, some default value. But yeah, okay. So selecting your bank is we need. So we have a width here. So width as 18 because it does not have a default width as entry. I mean it is a bit bigger. So in order to have this, I matched in order for the entry and the comma box to be in the same. So the options, I provide the options here. Okay, so the options is SBI, ICICI, IOB, Canara Bank. Everything is from the database. But in this, I have all the same bank, but the users can have multiple banks. So I can create a new row and create a new bank, for example, ICICI and so on. And here, let me go back. So I have this as a list, and in order to make the drop down values, I'm just going to use the config method on it. So value is equal to self.blackpost. So this is different. The set is the initial value for the, yeah, I mean before clicking on the combo box, this will be the initial value to in order to like guide the user that they should select the bank and so on. But for configuring the options, we need to use the variables config method and use the values on it. So the blank, the combo box is full of values, right? So we just need to like pass the options here, and then every other widget is kind of the same. So I'm just searching for the calendar here. Yeah, date entry. So for this we would have used the from tk calendar import calendar comma date entry, right? So we're just using the date entry. Okay, so this is the date entry, and it is also fairly intuitive. We have so self.frame body and width as the same because I want the labels to be same, and background equal to something. So I can have a different background, for example this, and the foreground is just another color. It will be on the top of the widget, so I can see it is just this color, right? So let me have the old light blue, and the border width is it's just a border. Okay, yeah, it's just fell into, and default value I'm providing it as 2000 because I wanted to I wanted users to have a major bank account, so they should be over 18. So I just provided some 2000 will be a nice fit for them. And day one and month equal to 1, and date pattern is just dd is small and is bigger, and y year is small because means minute. So in order to avoid the confusion, we just going to use the capital M because it's kind of the what everything is how everything is implemented. Okay, so that's what we have here. Just remove this, and other options are fairly fairly intuitive. And we have this file dialog here. Yeah, this is also the same. So we're just going to import the file dialog, and so first I need to have a button, right? Upload profile picture, and after I click that, the file dialog should open. So I'm just searching for the command. So file dialog is here. Okay, so self.create photo is where I kind of open it. So create, yeah, it should be named upload photo, but yeah, okay. So this, yeah, this might seem like large, but it's nothing. So even if I don't have all of these, it will just work just as fine. So file dialog dot ask open file name, you just need to call it and it will, yeah. So assume that you don't have anything here, it will still work the same, like it will open dialog box and so on. So the extra configuration is, so first I need to have the file name of the file that the user is uploading, right? So I'll just store the file name. So if I click on any file here, for example this file, so if I open it, I just need to know the name of the file, for example current, and it will have a full path. For example, this python program and transaction application slash current. So I need the full path, so that path is saved in this file name. Okay, and ignore these for now, I'll just show you later. This for like storing it in the database in order to convert it to the right format. So I'll be coming to that later. So now I just provided the initial directly on where the user should search for. If I don't have that, it will just have some, it will probably open the same folder or somewhere else. And I have the title, which is just the name of the title, and so we are just going to upload an image, right? So I'm just providing options such as file types. So inside file types, I'm just going to say image files, and yeah, as you can see, this is the one I'm talking about. So it will say it won't display any other type of files, only images. So in this folder I have many types. For example, in the transaction folder I have some Python program database files. So in order for me to like search the correct images, so the user is going to select the image anyway. It will be either JPG or GIF and so on. So I'm just providing this kind of options. So image files is just the name, and the GIF or the extension that I'm expecting. They can also have another kind of files, but I don't need that, but still I wanted to have this information. They can choose other type of files which will show other files. For example, now it will show my Python file and my database file. But if I have images selected, only these will be shown. Okay, so now since we have this create button ready, and yep, so on clicking create, so if this is successful, it will just show as the validation and so on, and it will go to the home page just like the login page, right? And yep, oh, I closed the application. So next we'll just go to the home page. I'll be sharing you some of these details later on, for example saving the image to the database, but for now let's focus on the home page. Okay, so let me log in one user, and yep, okay, I think I messed with the program somewhere. Oh, main account. Oh, okay, I did. Yeah, this is for another part of the application which I thought wouldn't be needed, but I did need it anyway. Okay, so now on the home page. Okay, so the home page contains, it's fairly similar. So we just have some photo image here, and some, yeah, a label that says some welcoming way, and few buttons. So check account, view transactions, usage graph, and so on. And we have some others like profile and others. So now to, yeah, first let me just show you the profile. So after login, the home page, where's the home page? Okay, so this is the home page. So this is for just um, yeah, for some default options here. So if I don't have this, uh, it will be probably stacking up on one another. So now I'll show you another time, but the menu will be rendered different times because I'm forgetting it one time. Yeah, let me show you quickly. Yep, the menu is not loaded because I did not call it, but I need to call it only once, because if I don't, yeah, I just need to call it only after the user has signed in or registered and so on. Otherwise it will be stacking up on one another. Okay, so now, yeah, just to find it. So now what we are going to do is, we have a frame body, so we just need to reset the frame body, and we have this photo image, and this is just the profile picture. So we are not going to like render a random image. Every user has a different kind of profile picture, right? So that's what I'm rendering here. For example, this user has the profile picture of like this. So I'll just get the data from the database, which I'll explain as later on, because it has some lot of work. Okay, so now we just have these kind of buttons: check account balance, recent transactions, so on. So the profile button, yeah, let me show you the profile button first. Profile. Okay, so the profile menu contains just the information from the database. So I stored all the database information in this variable while I was collecting this get methods, when the get details when the user is logging in. So those yeah, those kind of instructions are just I'm rendering here, right? So name, I'm just providing some relevant information. I'm just not showing their password or anything, but it's just a profile information, right? And then for edit profile option, I'm just providing a button, and here I'm saying it should call the edit function. So this will open a new page. Okay, this is the new page that we are going to see. So in this we have we have rendered this button, and we have the profile picture, and the email information are now I'm going to pass as entry options. Okay, so these are not, yeah, these are entries, but I'm just pre-filling the values. So if I go to def edit, okay, so here what I'm doing is I'm just using the entry widget, but this time I'm just validating, I mean inserting the old information, because whenever the user clicks on profile, it should have this old information displayed on this widget so that he can edit easily, right? So that's what we are doing. So we have this entry widget, and we are just inserting at the position 0 and what value we are just inserting. So this insert the user email, and likewise we are doing everything. Okay, and now if we changes it, okay, so I'm just checking if this page has any changes. So if I come here, so I'm just asking if you want to save the changes. So if I click on no button, all will be reset. For example, if I yeah, I deleted everything, and if I try to save, if I press enter here, I mean yes, it will just save it in the database, but I'm going to say no. So it will not save, but it's still there. So if I want to cancel it, it will just reset here. Okay, and in order to use it to the database, we're just going to kind of, yeah, send the data to the database. So what it says, when I click on the save button, it opens the self.save changes. So let me open that real quick. Save changes. Okay, so in this I'm just asking it, so are you sure you want to save the changes? So if I click on yes, so it's a ask yes or no dialog box. It's not OK button, it's a question, and it's just a yes or no button. Okay, So if so it will return a value, so either it will return true or false. So if temp is it true, it means the user wants to save the changes, right? If temp is not if temp is not false, I don't need to do anything. But if the temp is true, I'll just need to get the entry of the this one. So whatever the so these are the entries that I'm getting here. Whatever the user has changed, right? And I'm just updating those. So self.object.update record. So I'm calling the database method here, and I'm passing these self.uid, email, and phone and address, because these are the only things they can change here: profile picture, email, mobile, and address. Yeah, I mean, UID is just the user's ID that we saw in the database. This one, in order for them to reference. Okay. So in order to save it, yeah, whenever I just call this function, it will just update the record like magic. So here I just have this function implemented. So update record. So here I have it. So I'm just accepting UID of the user, or I can have the name as well, but I thought UID would be more appropriate. So UID is just the ID. Okay, so this ID. So what I'm trying to say here is, so I'm passing UID, email, phone, and address. So I'm executing a command. So I'm changing users, email, phone, and address. Okay, not this one. Email, phone, and address of one user, where the UID is this, right? Where the UID, I mean, this is the ID. So if I have ID of 10,000, this user's address, phone number, and yeah, the other information will be updated, right? So that's exactly what I'm doing, and I'm committing it. And this is just a return status to indicate. I'm not sure if I'll be even using it. Yeah, I did not use it, but yeah, I just want it as a return status. I won't be needing it as well. Okay, so this will update the information, profile information. Okay, but if the user clicks on cancel, for example, if I change everything, but if I click on cancel, it will just get to this original values. So for that, where is my edit? Yep, so if I click on cancel, it just says edit cancel. So I'm going to call this function. There are a lot of edit that I created. So here I have asked the user yes or no. So I'm asking if you want to cancel your changes. So if they click on yes, I need to reset the value, right? So I'm just deleting the old values. So if I delete this one, and if I click on cancel, we know that it will reset. So what happens is, as soon as I click on it, so if I want to cancel all these will be erased, and then the old value will be filled. So if the value of the message box is true, so it's just, these are all just getting the details, right? We already got those. So here we are just getting what the user has entered, and we are just deleting it from up till the end, and we are just inserting the old email. Okay, so here I'm just checking. I don't need to check it as well, because here I'm checking that only if the user has changed anything. In fact, if the user did not change, and I don't need to worry about this, but yeah, this for just for some other purpose. Okay, so that's how it just gets resetted, right? This cancel button. So save button and cancel button. Okay, so password button works on similar level. So I'm just going to enter a new password. So first it will check the current user password is the current user entered password, and it will just check for these two options, right? So if I click on save, it will just ask me to, like, I need to provide this old password here, and I'm just providing this new password, and it will update it. Now if I click on login button, I can use with the new password. So what it does is, let me go to the def edit. So here I have this, yeah, change password button. It will just go to self.pst change. So here I'm just getting the current password, okay, and the new password, ttk.entry. Okay, so now we're just saving save password, right? So I'm just going to open that function to see how it validates. Oops. So here I'm calling another function because I want it to be kind of, I don't want to repeat things, so I use another function here. So validate password. Okay, so here we are. So here it is just checking the what the user enters value. So I'm entering some password here, right? So it is just checking it, and it is just checking, now it is checking the old password, which is the system password. Okay, so and now I'm just seeing if these two new passwords are same. These two passwords should be same for them too, right? So because they are just re-entering the password, if they did, if the both of the passwords are same, and I'm going to use the change password method. Here I'm just passing self.vname, which is the username. I can use uid as well, and I get, yeah, and I'm passing the new password value. So in this function, just have change password, and here it just updates. So set password equal to, so I'm just changing the updated password. I'm not hashing any password here. Yeah, I mean, even if, yeah, it kind of involves some hashing algorithm, but it's just plain passwords here. So you can see in the database that I have some password as these kind, right? So it's just updating the password where the name is this. Okay, so I don't, sometimes I don't even need this name, but just for education I can use uid as well, but maybe not to be correct we have to use this. Okay, so that's what the change of password is. So profile features are quite over, and yeah. So here, next we will just talk about how the accounts are managed and how the friends are actually managed. There's some bit complicated features, but they are quite intuitive. So we'll see up next how we will use these account information, for example, changing. So in this video, we'll just implement the friends and managing the accounts actions and so on. So first, let's start with checking the account balance. So it's kind of intuitive. It just asks me for my UPI key, and we are just going to evaluate it. If it is wrong password, you're just displaying this dialog and send us to the home page. But if it is right, it'll just show the balance of the screen. Okay, so that's it. So first, this is the check balance. So this will be executed whenever I click on check account balance. And here, I just have the check for select self.check text for check. So it contains only this label and entry widget. It's just for easy managing, for reusability. Okay. So all this is enter the UPI key and it will get the value of it. Okay, so now we have this button OK, and after we click on enter the UPI and click on OK, this function will be executed. Okay, this check balance too. So here we have this, yeah, we are just calling this UPI validation function. So this is it. Actually, we are just validating here, but we are just getting the amount before validating. We know to make things faster. So we're just forgetting the old frames like we do. Okay, so and here we're just yeah, getting the value of the UPI pin. So what value I entered here, it is getting, and this I'm storing it here, and I'm just checking if the, okay, so if this, so I'm calling the database function check balance. and check balance is right here. So here I'm just returning self.upi not equals UPI key. So it means I'm using the, so whenever I store this username, right, so self.upi, I'm just checking against that, right? So if the current user's UPI is not the user's past UPI, which I just typed here, because here I just got the value of the entry field and passed it as here. So just checking. So if it is not same, we are just returning -1. Okay, and yeah, this function returns the amount. Actually, I have this variable wrong, actually, which means, yeah. So if the amount is -1, yes, right. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just returning -1. Else I am returning the balance. Okay. So if it's not matched, I'm returning -1. Else 1. I mean else the balance. So here I'm just selecting the balance from the bank account. So we have this database, right? So from this I'm just getting the querying the bank balance where the ID is equal to, yeah, I can use whatever I want, but for example UPI key as well. So here I'm just getting the balance. So it will be a tuple. We just get the first element of the tuple. It will be just one value, but it will be like in this format. For example, 100, and yeah, it will be this format. We don't need the tuple, we just need the exact value. So I'm just using the 0 here, and I'm returning the balance. So this will be returned as self.amount, where this function is calling here. Okay. So here I'm checking if the amount is -1, which means that the UPI key that the user entered is invalid. So I'm just going to show this show error, and I'm going to like send them to the self.home page. I don't need to send them if yeah, it's just optional. And or else I'm just going to display the label that says your bank account is followed by the amount that I got. Okay, so that's it, and I have a back button which just goes there. Okay, so recent transaction will be right back to it, but now let's go to transfer amount. Okay, so as you can see in this database, every user has an account balance, I mean account number associated with them. So in order to send the money, we'll just use the receptions. So who's the receiver, we'll just enter their account number and the money that we want to send from our account. Okay, so and if we pay this, yeah, there'll be few authentications. We need to provide the account UPI key as well. So 20401238. So let me just select a random account number and send them, for example, 1. So it will just ask me for the UPI key, and if I send it, and it will just ask me if I want to send ₹1 to this account, and if I click yes, it will be transaction. So if there is not any like sufficient amount, it will just show me the exact details. For example, if I want to send the same details again, I think it's 1238. I should have named this easier, but okay. If I want to send some big amount, it will still ask me for an UPI ID because it does need to check the amount, and it says low balance. Okay, so that's what we are trying to do here, and let's open the code for it. Transfer. Okay, so here we have this labels and the 2 entry widgets for this button. Okay, so whenever I click pay, it'll just go to another function. No, okay, def pay. So here I'm just using the old, yeah, the same, what to say, I'm just reusing the widget, the UPI key validation, so that will be happen. So if I click on OK, it will just go to another function, for example after transaction, which is this. So it is just the exact same kind of function we did there. So I'm just UPI validating, it will just return -1 if the amount is, yeah, if the UPI key is wrong. So I'll just pay here, or else if the UPI, yeah, if the amount is not -1, it means the user has some balance. So here I'm having a lot of if conditions. Okay, so there can be many errors occurring while user is trying to use that. So first, there can be invalid cache. For example, if the amount is not numeric, if it is like this, it's not a valid cache, right? So I'm just saying that, and afterwards, the yeah, we're just saying if the account number is also not valid, and we'll just say enter a valid account number. And here, just seeing if the account number, the sender's account number, right? It has to be the same account number has so two. Yeah, I mean I don't need to show it here, but it says we account number if the user number trying is trying to send money to his own account. So that's those kind of errors can also happen. So it says you have entered your own account number, please send your valid account number. So after all these errors, we're just asking, so there are no more errors. We are just asking if you want to pay this amount to that account, and if it is, yeah, if it is true, you'll just try to send the, yeah, this will be the database method. I'll just implement, yeah, I'll just show it now. Before that, it says if there are other conditions like low balance, we are saying insufficient balance, and if there is any server side error, we're just going to say something went wrong, please try again. Okay, so in this we are just going to see the database method. So I'm just going to pass the account, sender's account, right? So I'm just this will be the sender's, I mean no, sorry, reception's account, recipient account. So I'm just going to pass that in which to which account he want to enter, and also the, yeah, the amount he want to enter. So right now I'm just passing it as int. I don't need any float values because my database has only int now. So here in this pay method, this is what exactly happens. So it's not a big deal. It may seem large, but it's very intuitive. So what I'm trying to do is, I think I can reduce the number of, yeah, I can reduce the number of actions, but okay. So I'm just selecting balance of both the accounts, because from the sender's account the amount is going to be reduced, for the receiver's account the amount is going to be increased. So I'm getting both their balances, and transmitter balance and receiver's balance. Okay, so I have these, and then I am going to select the ID of the user that we are going to send, receiver ID, right? And the name of the ID, I don't need the name of the ID, but yeah, I could have reduced some queries here, but yeah, it is not that bad. We're just having some 7 queries and it should be quite efficient. I can try and reduce two or more queries, but okay. And then we are getting the reason from the balance, yeah, reason from the user, balance from the user. Maybe I can use star and select everything, but okay. So here we are just passing the senders, recent and balance. So recent I'll just cover later on. It's just for the graph page. So for recent transaction, I'm just logging all the transaction details and so on. So since we have the balance of all the users, now I'm going to like update their values. Okay, so okay, so I'll just explain this bit later on. It's for receiving, I mean recent actions as well. So here is where the transmission actually gets sent. So I'm just going to set the balance of the receiver as his balance is R balance, so receiver balance, and I'm going to add this account money. So account money is what I've got from this user. So what the user has entered here, for example 1000, and I'm just adding this to the account balance of the user and changing that. So in this we can say this will be yeah, I think, yeah, in the banks. So here the receiver's money will be added, and at the same time we are just also executing the sender's money to be negated. So I mean, to be difference, I mean, subtracted. Okay. So if, while after doing this operation, if the account balance is less than 0, which is, it means it entered a negative value, we're just returning. So it would not apply this changes to the database because we did not commit yet. So it will just, if the balance is low for less than 0, it will just say low balance and it will return the string. We are not committing. So if it is successful, we are just going to here. So what I'm trying to do is like insert into transaction values. It's just for some the values, for example, recent transactions, which will come later on. But I think for now this is it. Okay. So the recent is, I'll be having a separate focus on that, but this is how we are just going to send transfer amount. So friends is quite same. So since I sent the money to this, if you noticed before I had just 2 friends, but because I sent money to this new account, which is 4, I had this 4 account here, right? So I just added in my friends list here. So I can just now, what profile picture do I have it here? Just my graph for some other thing. So it just has in the account transactions, so I can pay from here onwards. So friends is kind of similar, but we are just going to have something different there. Def friends. So here I'm just going to render my every friends result. Okay, right? So for that, what I need is this account and the transaction details. So here I logged the from account and to account. So whenever I just transfer money with this option, it is loaded, and the corresponding name is also, like, I've added it here. I don't need this to add, but I added it here. So I'm just going to check if any of these. So if I sent an account of money from this account to this account to this receiver, or if I received money from this account to my account, in that time I'll be adding this account as my friend. So that's exactly what I am doing here. Okay, the friends tab implementation is this. So as you will notice, the new friend is added here. So what I'm going to do is, this is my friends tab, and we have these 2 options, functions that we'll explain later on. And this is just nothing but the scroll option here. So I want to have this scroll. If I have a lot of friends, I need to scroll here, right? So this scroll bar might be now invisible, but you can see them in the recent transactions. So for that I need to have canvas, but it's just the same. We can copy the code from here. Okay, so what I'm trying to do now is, in order to get the friends list, I'm just going to see the transaction history. So I showed you the transaction history, which is this, and I'm going to get the list of everything where the user has sent in. So probably there will be some transaction between 2 different users, but I'm going to involve only users where the current user is either sending or receiving. So assume that Tarun is the current user and he will be sending money, so it will be included. Here he is receiving money and he is included, but in this transaction he is neither receiving money or sending money, so this will not be included. So what we are trying to actually achieve is, we are just going to scroll through that list. So transaction history, we're just implementing this function. So I'm just going to get every record where from account is equal to the current user ID, or to account is equal to the current user ID. So either the user is going to send or receive. So this is what exactly I'm doing. Okay, so but the from account is the user ID, and so now I'm going to return every row of it, right? Every row. So there are many rows, so I'll be sending these every rows here. So in that, while receiving, what is happening is, so I'm just storing it in a variable called like self.values, and here, yeah, after the scroll is done, there's nothing. So I'm just going to like make a set of it. So I don't want any repetitive values, so I'm just adding a set. Okay, so in this set I'm just needing the friend's name, right? So I'm just having the friend's name. I don't need the current user's name or so on. So there will be many accounts of the same user, so I'm making a set in order to avoid the duplicate elements. So in this set we are just adding as we are looping through. So first we are just looping through every row here. So for example, I'll be looping in this row first, in the second row, third row, and so on, and I'm getting the fifth. Yeah, so I'm just seeing if the string I of 0 is equal to self.current user, or string I of 1 is equal to self.current. So either the sender or receiver should be here. Okay, so I'm just adding the fifth value, which is the user's friend. Okay, so I told you that we're just adding whoever this I send the money to. So the friends are whoever I sent the money to already, not I'm going to receive. So I'm just adding the fifth column, which is this. So one, actually this actually 0 0 1 2 3 4 and 5. Actually one, but this is the serial ID, we don't need that ID. So 1 2 3 4 5 6. So sixth column we have all the friends tab, right? So whoever I send the money to is my friend, not the other way around. So there will be probably some refund ticket from any private companies. I don't want them to be friends, but whom I am sending money to via account number. So I'm just going to get the fifth row, which is this row. So this will be containing a set. So this will be a set, and this will be a new element, and so on. So here, after getting it, I'm just removing my old name, which is my current username, right? So here I'll have the set of every users, including even my name. So I'm just removing it, and then we are just going to pack the labels. Okay, so since we have the self list, friend list, we're just going to iterate to this set, and we are popping any random element because the set is not ordered, it's unordered. So we are just removing the value, and I'm just going to create a new button to it because everything is a button here, right? And I'm packing it. Okay, so here I need to send the value to it here. So the value is this because I need to address this. So there are many buttons, but this specific button goes to this user, and this specific button goes to this user, and this goes to different user. So I cannot create just a new command like this. So there's a difference between using the command like this. So if I want to pass an argument, I have to do it with lambda. Otherwise this will just call the function whenever the page is just loaded, and not just when the button is clicked. So for passing the values, I need to kind of use the lambda function, and here we are just actually rendering it. Okay, so I'm not here. We def pay friend intermediate. Yeah, this is the one. So whenever one button is clicked, so if I click on this button, this function will be used, but it will be called only for that particular function. So transaction history of friend one of. So here I'm passing a transaction history. So this is the transaction history with that corresponding user. So there are a lot of transaction history for each friends. So this transaction history has different user. So I'm just going to get the value of that particular user. So now if I search it, transaction history, yep, this is the one. So here I'm just going to create a scrollable canvas because we might have many decent transactions with that user. And then yeah, this for just a profile picture. So this user does not have a profile picture, but this user does. Okay, so here I'm just yeah, showing the recent transactions, which will be, yeah, which is also kind of similar. Yeah, which I'll be showing you next. Okay, so here I have the pay button and yeah, sending button of the of that user. So this I'll be implementing, yeah, I'll be showing you next, but for now let's focus on the transaction. So now that the friends buttons are entered, you'll go to the transaction page of that user. Okay, so that might be quite complicated, but it is all it takes to do this. Okay, so now let's see that recent transactions. Okay, so this transactions shows every transaction that I've done to any other account. So this is a different user, and this is a different user, and so on. Okay, so this there are three kind of users, but when I go to the friends tab, there are actually only these, only with a particular friend the transaction is shown. Okay, so this is just not a big trick. So what I'm going to do is from the transaction history, right? So this transaction history table is quite important. So whenever I send enough money to any user, okay, so here I'm just logging the sender's account, receiver's account, and the amount sent and date sent. Okay, so whenever the, yeah, I tried to show this. Yeah, so whenever there's a transaction, you're just going to use from transact, which is, yeah, insert in transact values. So so pay button, as we seen earlier, it just adds the money to the receiving user and subtracts from the negative, like sending user. So while receiving, while this is successful, I'm just going to insert into this table the values. So I'm going to enter the self.account and the receiver's account, the money, date, time, the current time at which the transaction is sent, and the sender and receiver name. So it is exactly being stored here. So in order to show this kind of recent transactions, so what I'm going to do is I'm just check. So in this kind of transaction, I'll just check what transactions in this table have corresponded to the sender or receiver. So the sender is going to be the current user or the receiver is going to be the current user. Okay, so I'm just checking if the current user is in either sender or receiver. So if it is any one of this, so the user is involved in either sending or receiving. So this user is involved in receiving here and sending here and receiving here and so on. So at that time, I'll just render these database values into this account. Okay, so this is for the recent transaction between every user. So the sender has to be present in either one of these, but in friends it's kind of similar, in which the sender, yeah, the receiver has to be present in any one of this. So this, either the sender should send or receive, or the receiver should, like, would have sent and this would have he would have received. And I've done a new trick here. I mean, it's not a big trick. So whenever I just received from an account, I just have the label in green color, otherwise I have this in red color. So let's see the implementation real quick. Recent transaction, yeah, here it is. Okay, so here I'll just query from the database, which is, I don't know where, yeah, the vals, right? Here I already have the vals from the friends transaction, if you remember. So I'm just getting it. So here I'm just checking if sent to, so this is the message that has been displayed while sending. Received from, okay, so let me just show you database. So okay, So this is the exact label. So I'm just checking. So vals contain, for example, this every row. So value is this every table, but I'm just checking if the sender is sending or the receiver is either receiving with this friend. So since this is the friends tab, I have only the uh, friends and the corresponding user. Okay, so here I'm checking if string of I of 0, which is the current account number, equal to the current account number, and it is the friend's account number. So it means that the user is sending. Okay, so if I of 0 is the current account number, so which is the sending user, and the I of 1, which is the second account, which is the receiving user. So in that case, the from account is sending money to this account. So in that case, the money is being gone from the account, right? So in order to do that, I just have this red label. So the self.scroll is the frame which is going to enter. The text is self.message. So whenever the user is seen to be sending from his account, I'm just saying send to this account number. Okay, send to the sender. Okay, so send to IF5, which is for example Jawahar, and rupees, and this is IF2. That balance is here, right? The amount that is sent. So I'm just storing the IF2 on the date that is here. Okay, so I hope that is clear. And since the date has some milliseconds kind of details, I'm just kind of reducing it. Okay, so else, that means that the user is receiving. I do have a condition as well. So if IF1 equal to self.1, so it means the current user is in the receiving side. Okay, so that means that the user is getting the money. So I'm just saying received from the user, the balance and the date. Okay, and the foreground is green, and I have a separate font, and I don't need to use grid as well. I can just use pack if I want, but since I have it in loop, because the values are predetermined, so this is going to be looped over, and I have a grid system for them as well. Okay, so this is how the recent transactions involved. Just checking if the current user is in either the from account or into account. If it is into account, the text will be in green and so on. If you see it from this another account, if you log out and see from probably from the second receiver account, it will be inverted. It will be just saying so in this text current user, it will say send to the account, while for the other receiver it would have said received from the other account. Okay, so here there it will be green, here it will be red. So this is exactly what it is, what is being done here as well. But here I just don't have any conditions if the if the sender is here or not. It'll just probably say every user. So I just need to check if the string of I equal to in the current user, or the string of IF1 is the receiving user. Okay, so here it will be just added. Okay, so now almost everything is over. So the search functionality is also intuitive. So if I specify search by name, and it will just open my database operation, and it will just show the result. So let me see the search, def search. Okay, it's just the same, because whenever I use the search, I'm going to open this old tab here, the old recent transaction tab. So I just call this function this. So the search has some entry widgets, so I'm going to use specify by search by name or search by phone. So that's what it is being displayed here. Okay, specify how to search. So whenever the user clicks on the search button, it just go through this command search list. So I'm just going to that list now, and here I'm just querying from the database. Okay, so I'm just searching if the current user that I entered, for example if I use search by name, is in the database or not. So I'm going to search the database. So search friend, and it will return me some search friend. Yep. So yeah, here I just done simple trick. So letters are either in any way the user can search, not by providing this. But if the user type letters, it's probably going to be a name. If it's going to be something like numbers, it's going to be a phone number. So I'm just saying, like, if the value is numeric letter, so I just need to use the name and use the value here. And if the value is numeric, which means I have to search with phone numbers, so I'm just getting value here. So in this case, it will fetch the details of the user, which I'm going to render it as a button here. Payback. Okay, yeah, here. Yep. So it will just return the name, and I'm just rendering it as a button, text equal to result name, which is the name of the user. And if I click on it, it just go to my pay friend page, which is this recent transactions page. Okay, almost everything is done. Now I just need to use the check usage graph. So check usage graph, it's really nothing but we just have the account balance that is going over the number of transactions. Okay, so we can implement it in a lot of ways, but I'm going to show you a different way, which may not be efficient, but it is possible to do that way. Okay, so for every user, I just have a recent list. Okay, so at every instant, I'm just logging their account balance. So while there was some transactions here, for example, pay or pay friend, what I'm going to do is I have this recent from this user. So this is a list. Okay, so I'm just going I'm just going to convert it into a string here. So you can see it as a text, and while for storing the data, I'm just going to store it as string, and while retrieving, I'll just use the eval method or something, and I'll just return the list. So here, as you can see, I'm just getting the eval sender receiver. So sender receiver is this data, and I'm going to use eval. So it will be converted from a string to a list. So in this list, I'm going to ignore this for now. I'm just storing the last 30 transactions. So as the number of transaction increases, I'm just going to pop from the beginning. Okay, so what I'm just doing here is, so I have this sender receiver, right? This is a list. So whenever there's a transaction involved, I'm going to append them. I'm going to append this to the list. So as you can see, this is where the sender's recent transaction and the receiver recent transaction list is actually kind of changed, right? So the receiver has a list. For example, if this guy is sending, his list will be updated, his balance will be reduced, and this guy is receiving, his list will be updated as well, but his balance will be appended here. So that's what exactly this does. Okay, so sender received dot append. I'm just appending both of the money. So it covers most of it, so I can clear, and it will just reduce the plots and so on. So sender receiver, yep, here. So I'm just going to, after appending, I'm just going to convert it to a string and then store it into the database. Okay, so that is how the recent transaction is actually this involved. So this, for that I have to use the friend account number. This is just the friend's details of the friend money has the account balance of that user. So I'm just going to use this receiver receiving as this as a list. Okay, so this for the first. So if the user is making his first ever transaction, we're just going to create a list. Okay, and we're just going to use the a recent transaction here. So this is for the receiver. So likewise, I have the sender receiver, sender recent, and so on. So what I'm going to do with this data is, so yeah, so I'm going to use it as matplotlib here. So let me open def graph page. So here I'm just getting the list of the user. Okay. So here I'm just evaluating the user list, which is converted into a list, and I'm finding the length of the list, and yeah, this is just a clear usage button and so on. So here I'll make a figure, so which is in which it's kind of like a canvas is in which the figure is going to reside, and I'm going to add subplots, and this is just the matplotlib stuff, and the range is going to be from 1 to n. As you can see, it's from the 0 transaction. At the 0 transaction, the user has more account, the maximum money that he can have, and so that's the plot from the for the x-axis, and for the y-axis I'm just passing the user list. So it's going to be a list anyway, and it just it has the this kind of y values. So x value is probably 1 comma something, like around 9,000 the user has, and for the first transaction it will probably reduce to 7,000, and those corresponding will be plotted in this. The x label is transaction and the y label is amount after each transaction. So here I'm just like packing the figure into this canvas, and yeah, the master is going to be, it's going to reside inside this frame body, and I'll just draw it as, because the matplotlib is either going to be an image, and we're just going to pack this canvas here. So in order to use this, we're just going to import this one, figure canvas Tkinter aggregate. So we're just going to need to import this from this library, and it will provide the necessary details. To see how profile pictures are actually stored in the database. It may not be always efficient to store images in the database, but it's absolutely possible. But for that, we need to convert it into a blob object, which is a binary large object. So first, after selecting the file name, the user's file name is stored here. So this is just a string that contains the path to the image, for example, E drive and Python project folder and the name of the image and so on. So this is just the file name, and if there's a file name, it means the user has selected a profile picture, and I'm going to read it in binary format. Okay, so this is the image, a path to the image, and I'm going to read it as a binary format, and yeah, that object is I'm opening it as file. So I'm reading the entire contents of this file and storing it in self.image object, which is what I'm going to send in this into my database. So insert block, I have a function here where I will just set the image for that particular user. Okay, so ID for the current user, and I'm going to set the blob image which I just passed. It's simple as that. So as soon as we convert it into a binary object, we are ready to actually store it in the database. Okay, so now I'm storing it in self.profile picture. Okay, so this profile picture, while reading it to an image, what I'm actually doing is in the profile, yeah, here. So since I have the self.profile picture, which is still the binary image, so I'm just opening a new file. So the file does not exist, but I am just making it as like, yeah, this is the current file, but assume that it does not exist. Okay, so this is the DP, and if it does not exist, it will create a new file, and I'm just going to write into the binary mode. Okay, so what I'm going to do is self.profile picture is the original profile photo, right? You would have seen that in 179 here we stored that returned object, so it is returning the actual image itself. Okay, so I'm just storing it as self.profile picture. So that picture I'm just going to convert it to an image. So I'm just going to write an binary image for that profile picture. So this entire contents will be saved as a JPEG file here. Okay, so binary file, I'm just writing this as a binary file, and this will be, I'm storing it as a JPEG file. So this is the current profile picture of that user. All right, and then I'm just opening the image, and I'm resizing the image to be in the right size of the profile picture. And now here I'm just using the image TKS photo image and converting into a suitable format so that the label can utilize it. So this is the exact label that I'm actually using for the particular user. Okay, so the profile picture exists, we are just converting into a, we are just storing it as a local image here. So this will be the only photo that will be like, yeah, saved in this local directory. And yeah, this is the file exactly, it is written into this. So as you can see, I am opening this as a file. Right now the file is empty, and I'm just writing the entire contents of this into an uh, yeah, into this, from this profile picture. And since it's a JPEG image, I'm now ready to open it as this. It is as simple as that. And for displaying the friend's profile picture, for example, um, in the transactions between these friends, there's a profile picture for the friend as well in this. So whenever I just, this user does not have profile picture, but this user does. So we are just getting the profile picture of the friend as well. And for that we are just storing, yeah, we're just getting the friend info from this function, which just gets the image from the user. Okay, and the balance if it's necessary. So we are just sending the image value, and then this is the friend object's image, and we are just opening the friend object, which is the binary image, and we are just creating a new image, friend.jpg, and in this it'll be overwritten. So if even if I open for another user, for example, this user, the friend will be changed instantaneously, right? But if I open for this user, it will be changed instantaneously. So there will be one image that will be overwritten, so it won't get, yeah, only the two images we are storing. The current user will be one, and the friend, whatever the I last clicked. So if I click on this friend, this will be saved in that. So we're just opening that image object, and we are just creating a new file, and we are going to write a binary format into it, binary data. So we are just getting this exact contents and writing into this file. And since we are saving it as a JPEG image, it's now ready to be, like, after some configurations, it's now ready to be used in a label as an image, right? So this is how exactly we are using the profile picture for friends as well. So that's it for this project. I think most everything is covered, and rest of the code, if I didn't cover it, will be the same concept as it is. Thank you.